Hey honey, did you know that real estate is on sale? Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Hans Strasina and this lovely person is my wife, Kristin. I'm so honored to have her as part of the channel and part of my real estate sales team here. As you know, we're part of the Gunderman Group with Keller Williams Luxury International. And if you've been following this channel for a while, you'll have noticed that we haven't released anything in quite a bit because this market has just taken our full attention. I haven't had enough time to produce videos, and Kristin has gotten into the business just about a year ago full time and has really been helping me and our team ramp up pretty substantially, and I'm really excited to have her on the channel as well as in the real estate business itself. Prior to that, she was running a fitness business. As some of you may know, we invest in real estate as well, and she's been running a lot of that. And so I'm really excited to bring her into this so that we can partner together and continue to bring more value to this channel as well as all of our clients here in the East Bay. So enough about that. What we're going to talk about today is the market. What is going on? I have to say, I can't take all the credit for that intro about real estate being on sale. One of our colleagues, Remy Weinstein, said that the other day at a cocktail hour and I just had to use it. So shout out to Remy, thanks for that one. But that's really what it feels like, is simply real estate is on sale. We've come off of our spring peak. We're gonna go through some anecdotes. We're gonna go through a few facts and a few pieces of advice of what you can do moving forward to be successful in this market.
Thanks, I'm so excited to be here and so excited to show up on these videos more and get to know all of you a bit more. So the market, what we've experienced so far this year is that the spring market really shifted forward. Typically we see the spring market really heat up right after the Super Bowl, but this year it was on fire starting about January 15th or so. So it was definitely pushed forward. And then we were doing lots of transactions, working with lots of buyers and sellers all the way through to about May 15th, which is typical for the market to sort of take a breath at that moment. But for example, in the month of April, we got 9 buyers and sellers into contract just in that month. So that's how much transacting was going on. We were seeing homes with lots of offers. We heard of one home that had gotten 41 offers. So it was just a little bit wild. Now that we're shifted into the month of June, late June here, what we've seen is that the market, the sort of spring party that we had, has come to an end. And what it's feeling like is a squishy balloon, kind of like the morning after the party where the balloons have sunk down halfway and things are not feeling as hot or nearly as wild as they were. So in this June market, what we've also experienced is that a lot of the buyers who have been waiting for years and years for this crazy East Bay real estate market to come down, to take a breath, what we've experienced is that this is happening, but yet so many of them have gone on vacation or are otherwise distracted. Prices are about 10 to 15% lower than they were. For the best homes, for the ones that have everything that buyers are looking for, those ones are still transacting and getting multiple offers, somewhere in the realm of 3 to 7 offers at this point. But a lot of the homes are sitting on the market, racking up days on market, and in many cases, just not seeing many buyers showing up to the table.
So to give you an example, we had our last 2 offers that we had written and won on and gotten to contract on. We were one of one. We were the only offer present either on the offer date or in one case after the offer date because they got nothing on the offer date. And so specifically there was in Montclair, there was a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with a really nice lot and big garage. We were the only offer that showed up. And we simply were lower than what the seller wanted by at least $150,000 below their floor. And as we all know, that wouldn't have worked 2-3 months ago. Now, not only were we the only one, but over the course of about 48 hours, we sort of talked the agent and then talked the seller down closer to us and closer to us. They gave us a counter offer, we rejected it. They gave us a verbal counter offer, we still said no, we're not interested, and then we went and looked at some other property and got them a little nervous that we might actually disappear because they knew they didn't have anything going. And so ultimately what happened was the seller finally, about 48 to about 48 hours after the original offer was written and submitted, they realized that we weren't joking around and we were actually seriously going to leave and go somewhere else. And so they came back to us with saying, we'll go back to your number, which was $150,000 less, as long as you pay the city transfer tax, which was about a net increase, about $10,000 to our client. And they said, well, for that amount of money, we'd love to have this house, let's do it. And so we wore them down, and now they're in contract. That's an example of something that is happening today actively as we speak.
Another set of buyers we worked with over the past couple of weeks were this couple who was looking in North Oakland. They really wanted a place in North Oakland. They had bid on one and lost out on it. And they found this Victorian, quite a large Victorian with an ADU in the back. So offer date came. They were the only offer on offer date. And the sellers came back to us and said that we weren't quite where we needed to be on price. So these buyers in particular had quite a large down payment, and they were quite payment sensitive. So they were sort of running the numbers through their spreadsheet and looking at what was possible for them from a payment perspective.
And so because we knew we were the only option they had in writing, there was someone else circling, but they weren't committing yet. We said, okay, we'll come up to a price that you said you wanted, but what we're gonna ask for is a credit for you to pay down the interest rate so that the payment stays more or less the same. And because they had such a big cash payment, we could move a few things around and do that. So we sent that back to the seller, which essentially increased their net by $30,000 or thereabouts. And obviously that wasn't quite as big of a net as they were hoping for. So then they came back to us with saying, well, what about this timing? What about if they move in early? We explored a number of different things. What if you could close before the end of the month? For taxes and for rent backs and all of this sort of thing. And so what ultimately happened is we backed ourselves into a number that more or less hit the original net, but got rid of all these extra terms. So rather than focusing on the top line price, what we did is we took the negotiation and focused it into some of these terms of like, when can they move their stuff in? When can they get out of their rental? When can they, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately got everybody focused on something else as opposed to just the top line price.
So what we're seeing in the market right now is that buyers have this sort of power that they haven't had for a long time. So if you're a buyer here in the East Bay, what we recommend is just to be there, because what we're seeing is that offer dates are either non-existent, they're just waiting for offers to come in as they're written, or sellers are setting an offer date and sometimes no one is showing up to them. So as a buyer, it really helps if you just show up, if you write the offer, if you put yourself in front of the seller. Because what we're seeing is that through the negotiations, the buyer and seller will be able to come to terms together.
And while there is this gap, like sellers are still looking at the spring comps, and they're looking at the prices from 2, 3, 4 months ago, which we all know have dropped back 10, 12, 15% in some cases, substantial difference. Whereas the buyers are looking and becoming more payment sensitive. And so they're looking forward, and recession this and inflation that, right? And interest rates, of course, and ultimately what that is doing to their monthly payment and affordability. And so that gap becomes really hard to bridge in the hypothetical when you're kind of talking, the agents are talking back and forth, but when pen meets paper and it goes in front of the seller, and now it's a real offer with real financing attached to it and real terms on it, bird in the hand is really starting to win the day. And sellers are like, shoot, I don't want to be the one left holding the bag in 3 more months when this is worth 10% less potentially. And so what we're seeing is the people who are showing up and being present are being successful more often than they used to be. Because there was a mentality of like, oh, if I can't get over the comps or I can't spend more than the next person, it's not even worth writing. Well, that is exactly the opposite of where we're at right now. So it actually is worth writing, and that is the number one thing we can tell you potentially as a buyer, to make sure that you are present and you're showing up and writing an offer, even if you think it's low.
And let's talk about interest rates for a moment, because we've been hearing this from a lot of buyers. Obviously, the Fed has raised the interest rates substantially from where they were at the beginning of the year. And so a lot of buyers are pulling back because they're seeing that their payments are so much higher than they would have been had they jumped in earlier in the spring. So the conversation we're having with a lot of the buyer clients that we're working with is to look into alternative options, to get a little bit creative here. As we were mentioning on the one in North Oakland, we talked about having the sellers buy down the interest rate so that the buyers could have a better payment in the end. Another option is to look into a little bit more creative financing, like 7 or 10-year ARM products, something that's going to help you so it takes the heat off of your monthly obligation.
So really what you can do as a buyer right now is be present, look at other types of financing, and really start to dig into terms. Look for opportunities to get the seller or somebody to pay down your rate or take care of some of your closing costs or some such thing, because that is on the table now. It didn't used to be 3 months ago, it is now. As a seller, what you really need to be focused on more than anything is being the house of the week, making sure your presentation is nailed so perfectly that you're getting all of the energy that's out there. If you've got an odd floor plan, a lot of stairs, a busy street, just whatever it is, you have to overcompensate to get the energy, to get people to come forward. And you may even consider saying, hey, I will pay up to a point to buy your interest rate down and advertise that just to draw a little bit of extra energy. That doesn't necessarily obligate you to do it, but it gives you something else to use as a negotiating tool to pull someone to the table so you can actually then have that back and forth. Hopefully you got some value out of that. Really appreciate you guys tuning back in and welcoming Kristin to the channel. We're really excited to have her and to be back here producing videos for you all. Of course, as always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, because we're going to continue to put out regular content just like this, and you're not going to want to miss it. So without any further ado, let's sign it off. I'm Hans.
I'm Kristin. We'll see you on the next one.